The advance of the COVID pandemic on a global scale has triggered a crisis in health system that many countries have not been able to overcome. In our country, even the relationships between health science professionals, patients, and their families has been affected, partly induced by others organized states, which by following guidelines from the other relatives on the management of patients under certain standards of the health status, have stipulate regulation that influence the treatment and prognosis of the life of the affected person, observing attacks against the dignity of the human beings. Similarly, the shortage of resource, corruption, and the poor capacity to resolve viral diagnosis have not only allowed the disease to be unknown in real time in our country, but has also led the discrimination of professionals such as doctors and nurses who implement care and attention to the variety of these patients also experience incapacity and vulnerability in the face of the pandemic.
In view of the pandemic, the Colombian government decided to establish a reform in one of the highest peaks on contagion, with an 8% of occupation in the ICU and a high level of unemployment, in which Colombian are economically affected. This led to the calling of a national strike since April 28.
Mano pa' destapar lo miserable del tiempo, cara para aguantar la lluvia y el pavimento, ojos para descubrir lo que chuza el sentimiento, ranchas lo que no tengo, sin fuerza para seguir. Alelele, alelele, para, alelele, alelele, para. Y el aire que me vuelve a encontrar es mi libertad, mi único lugar.
According to the organizers, the government of President Ivan Duque is preparing a package of measures that will have a strong economic and social impact on workers. Among them will be the proposal to eliminate the state pension fund pensiones, increase the retirement age, and reduce the salary for young people to 75% of the minimum. Among other measures, the government has denied the veracity of many of the measures, saying it's not true that it has presented to Congress the labor and social security reform, denunciated by the unions and that everything must be subject to negotiation. The demonstrations were also attended by students from public and private universities who have mobilized on several occasions over the past year. They demand more investment in education and the fulfillment of agreement signed last year after more than 2 months of protests and which include investment for universities. Protesters also demanded effective protection measures for indigenous people and social leaders. The target of a wave of killings that has claimed the lives of dozens of then Saints Duque came to power 15 months ago. The popular indignation is still unchecked, despite the fact that the trigger for the marches was a tax reform presented by the government of President Ivan Duque to Congress, which was later forced to withdraw. The outrage goes much further and goes beyond that issue. It is still a for all, and in the face of this uneasiness, the government has responded without conduct, trying to dissipate the social anger with force, with violence that has left death and fear. Since April 28th, millions of people have taken to the street in different cities of the country in response to a tax reform presented by the government to Congress, which will increase tax of basic food products and funeral expense, among others. Despite the withdrawal of the proposal, we have maintained constant protests, mostly peaceful, which only reflect the accumulated social fatigue against police that have perpetuated inequality, racism, discrimination, and the dire consequence of armed conflict, are exacerbated by the COVID pandemic and the inadequate state response. No agreements were reached. No empathy has been shown for the victims. We have demanded an end to the massacres, an end to official and private
Una
violence.
de todas las cosas que hacemos para que siempre quieras regresar. Éxito para todos, todos.